Hong Kong and Shenzhen authorities discuss extended service hours at some border crossings around the Lunar New Year holidays. Questions over steel bars used in the Mariners Club redevelopment project in Tsim Sha Tsui. And Joe Biden says the U.S. remains committed to a two-state solution in a post-war Gaza scenario. Hello and welcome to TVB News. Hong Kong and mainland authorities are in talks to strengthen cross-border transport services during the Lunar New Year holidays. It's understood the Shenzhen Bay control point will likely open 24 hours, with extended service hours at the Lawwu checkpoint. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Lam Sai-hung said the review of transport arrangements will likely be carried out before the Lunar New Year holidays. The transport chaos after the New Year countdown and fireworks when hundreds of mainland tourists tried to get home after visiting Hong Kong but found themselves stranded in the city overnight. Authorities in Hong Kong and the mainland now in talks to prevent such woes from happening again. It's understood the round-the-clock cargo clearance service at the Shenzhen Bay control point will continue its 24-hour operation for passenger services as well between the Chinese New Year's Eve and the fourth day of the Lunar New Year. The Lawwu checkpoint will very likely extend its hours until 2 a.m. on Chinese New Year's Eve and the second day of the Lunar New Year as well. The MTR's East Rail Line will extend its hours in tandem. Secretary for Transport and Logistics Lam Sai-hung said if the border checkpoints extend their opening hours, the rail network will follow suit, and he is confident the MTRC will balance the need for maintenance works and the service hours during holidays. This as MTRC has to cut service hours to give workers more time to carry out repairs overnight. The transport chief also stressed authorities will crack down on illegal cross-border car hiring services and consider setting up new cross-boundary bus routes. That's to prevent snarl-ups again around Lok Ma Chau after more than 1,000 private cars tried to head north via the Huanggang border around midnight on New Year's Day. Lawmaker Michael Tian, also the former chairman of the Kowloon Canton Railway Corporation, points out the need for the Lok Ma Chau spur line to provide overnight services during holiday seasons as well, not just the local MTR lines. The Lok Ma Chau spur line will close at 10:30 p.m. during the Lunar New Year holidays, while Lawwu Station will continue its services until 2 a.m. Tian added another reason to boost cross-border services is the comeback of the Lunar New Year parades after a 5-year hiatus, which will likely draw plenty of tourists, even more so than the fireworks. The Mariners Club redevelopment project, which went up in flames last year, once again is under media spotlight. This time it's been found that some of the steel bars used in the project might have been taken from another construction site without approval. This memorable scene of the fire back in March last year, engulfed in flames, was the Mariners Club, the 48-story skyscraper which has been under construction at the heart of Tsim Sha Tsui. Most of its glass curtain walls have now been installed, but the high-rise building once again came under scrutiny. That's after the buildings department received reports from members of the public between September and November last year about the quality of the steel reinforcing bars, or rebars, used in the Mariners Club project. The department requested the project's registered structural engineer to submit test reports of the rebars. The report showed a total of 17 batches of rebar samples there fulfilled the requirements of relevant regulations and followed the approved building plans with no irregularity on the rebar's quality. But there's a catch. The reports found some rebars were supposed to be used at another development project, iCity, on Ta Chun Ping Street in Kwai Chung. The buildings department said the test reports are not sufficient yet to prove the rebars in question were indeed the same batch that was delivered for use at the Tsim Sha Tsui site. With that, the Mariners Club project's engineer proposed to randomly open up part of the cast structures to verify compliance to standards the government set. The alleged rebar issue was first spotlighted by whistleblowing group China Monitoring. It wrote that the supplier suspended shipments of some building materials for the Mariners Club project because of payment disputes with the main contractor, and that raised questions over the source of rebars at the site. Jason Poon, China Monitoring's chairman, said while the cache of rebars might be enough for use at both sites in the Mariners Club and iCity, the crux of the issue lies in the possible fraud and forgery of documents submitted to the government, as the rebars intended for one project were used at another construction site without consent. Aaron Bok, former president of the Hong Kong Institution of Engineers, noted any changes in construction materials and construction planning should receive approvals from the Buildings Department before proceeding. The Law Society received 16 complaints related to the 612 Humanitarian Fund, a now-defunct fund that provided financial support to people arrested over the 2019 protests. The Law Society said it had completed investigations into 10 of the 16 cases, and some of them are unsubstantiated. The substantiated ones will be subject to different levels of disciplinary action. The most serious cases will be referred to the Solicitor's Disciplinary Tribunal panel. All cases have the opportunity to make an appeal. When asked when the cases can be disclosed to the public, the Law Society expects it will take a few months to conclude all probes and reviews. The Bars Association, meanwhile, said 38 barristers who faced allegations related to the 612 Humanitarian Fund have been cleared of wrongdoing. Chen Chek-ming, president of the Law Society, said the two professional groups are different in work nature and their investigations are not comparable. U.S. President Joe Biden said his administration remains committed to a two-state solution in a post-war Gaza scenario. This after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu bluntly told the U.S. that Israel's plans for the future do not accommodate an independent Palestinian state. Meanwhile, Gaza officials said the death toll since October 7th has risen to almost 24,800, with 142 killed in the previous 24 hours. Israel launched its war after Hamas and other groups raided Israel on October 7th, resulting in 1,200 deaths and the capture of some 240 hostages. Nasri Karim has more.
They hadn't spoken in almost a month, reflecting the uneasy relationship between U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that goes back decades. Reports say even after a 40-minute phone call, neither man was willing to give an inch. Biden insisting a two-state solution is the only way towards peace, while Netanyahu opposes such a post-war scenario.
Are you going to reconsider conditions on Israel aid, given what Netanyahu said about a one-state?
I think we'll be able to work something out.
What does that mean?
There are a number of types of two-state solutions. There's a number of countries that are members of the UN that are still don't have their own militaries. A number of states that have limitations on it. And so I think there's ways in which this could work.
But Bibi has said he's opposed to any of two-state solutions.
Some analysts believe Netanyahu may be standing his ground in the hope that Donald Trump, with whom he has a close relationship, will defeat Biden in November's U.S. presidential election. This as he faces criticism at home, particularly at his inability to secure the release of some 100 hostages who remain in Gaza more than 3 months since he launched the war. Families of hostages protested outside Netanyahu's private residence in Caesarea on Saturday, demanding a deal to secure their release. Eli Shtivi's 28-year-old son, Idan, has been held in Gaza since October 7th. Eli has gone on a hunger strike, saying he will eat only a quarter of a pita bread, a traditional Palestinian staple, a day, in keeping with the reported diet of hostages held in Gaza. Netanyahu has vowed to continue Israel's assault on Gaza until the hostages are freed. However, Israeli Cabinet Minister Gadi Eisenkot, whose soldier son was killed in Gaza, said only a deal would secure the release of hostages. He told Channel 12 program Uvda that it is impossible to bring the hostages back alive in the near future without a deal. Families, though, may be heartened by a recent deal between Israel and Hamas to allow medical supplies to reach the hostages, as well as those in need in Gaza. The deal, brokered by Qatar and France, was praised by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, though he added it was not enough for a population of 2.3 million, 85% of whom have been displaced. Nasri Karim, TVB News.
The United States said it has struck 3 military sites in Houthi-controlled Yemen, aimed at missiles about to be launched towards the southern Red Sea. U.S. President Joe Biden, however, said Washington's military action has so far failed to stop attacks on ships by the Yemen-based group. U.S. Central Command said the missiles presented an imminent threat to merchant vessels and U.S. Navy ships in the area, and they acted in self-defense. On Thursday, Biden said the airstrikes would continue, even as he acknowledged that they may not succeed in stopping Houthi attacks on vessels in the area. The Houthis say they are acting in solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza and are targeting ships sailing to Israel or with links to Israel. And 4 days ago, the group also said it would expand its targets to include U.S. ships. The Houthi attacks have slowed down seaborne trade in the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. Pakistan's political and military leaders met on Friday in an attempt to de-escalate tensions with Iran after tit-for-tat deadly airstrikes by Tehran and Islamabad. The strikes killed at least 11 people on both sides. Pakistan's caretaker Prime Minister Anwarul Haqqar chaired the National Security Committee meeting. On Tuesday, Iran targeted militant groups on Pakistani soil, killing 2 children in the southwestern Baluchistan province. Pakistan on Thursday launched airstrikes against alleged militant hideouts inside Iran, killing at least 9 people. The 2 countries' foreign ministers spoke to each other on Friday, with both sides expressing a desire to ease tensions. And still ahead, a Boeing 747 cargo plane makes an emergency landing in Miami after an engine problem. Japan's lunar lander reaches the moon, but its solar panel fails to generate power. Welcome back. A Boeing 747 cargo plane made an emergency landing at Miami International Airport after an engine malfunction. Flames were seen shooting out of one of the jumbo jet's engines, leaving a trail of fire in the sky. More in this NBC News report.
A shocking sight in the night sky over Florida.
Oh my God, it's on fire.
Engine trouble on an Atlas Air cargo flight minutes after takeoff.
Mayday, mayday.
The airline says the Boeing 747-8 on its way to Puerto Rico was forced to return to Miami Airport.
Engine fire. Request exit back to the airport.
It may be an uncontained engine failure where a rotating piece inside the engine got loose and then punctured out of the engine cowling.
If you're flying that plane, you want to get it back on the ground as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. And the pilots appeared to do just that.
It landed safely, the 5 people on board uninjured. The cargo and charter airline says safety is always our top priority. The FAA and NTSB are investigating. The incident happening just weeks after a door plug panel blew off a Boeing 737 MAX 9 plane during an Alaska Airlines flight. The FAA ordered a temporary grounding of 171 MAX 9s. The airplane manufacturer does not make engines, which appears to have been the issue on the Atlas Air flight.
Boeing has no responsibility for the manufacturing of this engine. They only manufacture the airframe and the wings.
The engine manufacturer GE says it is working with federal investigators. The 747 has 4 engines. Even with one down, the crew could still get the plane back on the ground safely. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
In the U.S., former President Donald Trump and Republican primary challenger Nikki Haley were locked in a fierce war of words ahead of next week's New Hampshire primary. More from NBC News.
With 4 days until New Hampshire votes, frontrunner Donald Trump is looking for a victory that could all but wrap up the nomination.
Republicans have to get tougher, but Nikki would, I know Nikki very well, she would not be able to handle the onslaught.
A new poll showing him with a 17-point lead here over Nikki Haley. Trump arguing she's relying on independents allowed to vote in this GOP primary.
She's not going to make it. She has no chance. She's got no way. MAGA's not going to be with her.
How am I not conservative? I was a Tea Party governor. I passed voter ID.
Haley focusing on age, warning Republicans against choosing a 77-year-old nominee to face off against an 81-year-old President Biden.
Don't you think we need to have mental competency tests for anyone over the age of 75?
I actually feel better now than I did 30 years ago. And I think cognitively I'm better than I was 20 years ago. I don't know why.
The generational argument appealing to 23-year-old Haley supporter Nathan Seal.
Nikki Haley says it's time for a new generation of leaders. Do you agree with her?
I agree with her. It's time for a new generation of leaders. I really wouldn't like a matchup between Trump and Biden again.
But Augusta Patrone says she's struggling with high prices and will vote for Trump.
I admire his courage and guts, and I accept the mouth. I think what he's accomplished is
awesome.
Then there's Doreen Pooler, who's still undecided between Haley and DeSantis.
When will you make up your mind?
Quite frankly, I'll probably not making it up as I walk in to actually fill out my ballot.
Japan has become the fifth country to reach the moon. A spacecraft without astronauts successfully made a soft landing on the lunar surface early Saturday. However, space officials say they need more time to analyze whether the Smart Lander for Investigating Moon, or SLIM, has achieved its mission priority of making a pinpoint landing. Most previous landings used landing zones about 10 kilometers wide, but SLIM was aiming at a target of just 100 meters. Officials said a landing of such precision would be a world's first. That would be crucial for a long-term and accurate space probe system. Officials also say the spacecraft's solar panel failed to generate power, which could shorten its activity on the moon. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is inviting more Chinese companies to expand investment in the country. He made the remarks while meeting Foreign Minister Wang Yi in the northeastern city of Fortaleza. Lula said both Brazil and China have a high degree of consensus on major issues, and leaders from both sides will continue to enhance their communication. Wang said both countries will strengthen their partnership on the Belt and Road Initiative. Earlier, Wang met with his Brazilian counterpart Mauro Vieira in Brasilia. They discussed the conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza and how they can be resolved. Wang and Vieira signed a visa agreement between the two nations, extending the validity of the visas from 5 to 10 years, aimed at spurring business travel and tourism. The observatory has forecast cool weather for the next few days. This as a cold front is moving across the coastal areas of Guangdong. Mo Sang-ai reports.
A long queue was seen at an ice cream van in Central this afternoon. Some people put on their sunglasses. While the weather was hot during the day today, with the mercury rising to 28 degrees Celsius in some areas, temperatures are expected to drop notably in the next few days. According to the observatory's forecast, the temperature will be around 15 degrees in urban areas on Sunday and a couple of degrees lower in the new territories. Weather authorities say the city is being affected by a cold front that is moving across the coastal areas of Guangdong. This man says he is not worried about the upcoming change in weather. Rather, he welcomes it and said there will be more like winter. The chilly weather, however, may have an impact on runners who will take part in the Hong Kong Marathon on Sunday. Some races, including half marathon and 10K, start before 6 a.m. Track and field coach Chen Gao-ho said beginner runners should do more warm-up exercises before the races. Among the 70,000 runners in Sunday's event, Kenny is a first-time runner who is diagnosed with a severe form of thalassemia, a blood disorder caused when the body does not make enough hemoglobin, a crucial part of red blood cells. Due to the disorder, Kenny must go to the hospital for blood transfusion once a month and receive a deferoxamine injection almost daily to remove excess iron from his body. Kenny says taking part in a marathon is certainly a challenge and a wish for him. Emma Ma, chairman of Children's Thalassemia Foundation, says the group has arranged 9 patients to join the races this year. Ma hopes the public can have a better understanding of thalassemia patients and offer more support to them. Nonetheless, Ma stressed that not all thalassemia patients can run in a marathon. News 9 TV News.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.